Hey, I'm Sarah Tagander, international speaker and trainer for a $40 million division in healthcare. With over a decade of experience working with healthcare providers, I believe that a healthcare practice should do more than just pay back student loans. Each week, I'll bring you the tips, tricks, and experts you need to build your practice both on and offline. Smart people take notes, so grab a pen or open up the Notes app on your phone as we dive into the Health of Your Business podcast. I am spending a lot more time than I'd like to admit these days on Facebook, but that's because they're doing such a great job bringing communities together. You really feel like you're connecting with like-minded individuals when the community is done right. I believe you can create communities and patient loyalty through online platforms like Facebook groups. And if you want to know how to create a Facebook group for your practice, well, my friend Anna, or Banana, as her friends call her, is a Facebook group strategist. Not only that, but you're not going to believe what her day job is. It was like I found her from the heavens just for you. This is what she's been doing as a sole successful online business strategy for over 10 years is using Facebook groups. She's the creator of the Done For You group content creation membership conversation starter and the course Mastering the Art of Groups. You need to reach out to her, join her group, tell her Sarah sent you, and you're not going to believe the things that she reveals in this interview. Anna Gray, I can't wait to talk to you because I swear I manifested you. All right. I just want to let you know that. When I started the idea of and put pen to paper of what kind of things do I want to talk about on a podcast for healthcare professionals, like what do my girlfriends need to know that's working in my life and my business, I wrote down Facebook groups. And I said, how am I going to find someone that understands healthcare and Facebook groups? And I met you and I got a little nervous asking you to be on the podcast because I was like, is she really going to get my girls? Like, is she going to understand? And then you just dropped a bomb on me that you've been an OR nurse for how long, Anna?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. So not only are you the queen of Facebook groups, the queen of online community, but you get us. You get what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on with me this morning. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for asking. It was kind of like we manifested each other.
I could not believe that I found someone that had like all that and a bag of chips all in one. And you're an amazing mom too, which is, a reoccurring theme on the podcast that I just meet these women and we're juggling a lot of things at the same time, which we'll talk about. But the elephant in the room, I think, about Facebook groups is how in the world can you really create a virtual community? Like, are we no longer going to have coffee with our friends? Are we just going to say, hey, let's meet up, inside our Facebook group? Or tell me a little bit about where you see Facebook groups going and being a part of the world.
Great. I think that I've been doing Facebook groups for almost 10 years and Facebook groups have definitely evolved. The great thing about Facebook groups are they're continuing to evolve. The features are continuing to evolve, but most importantly, we as group consumers have become smarter. I don't know about you, but way back when Facebook groups first began, people started to add us to groups, and they were these communities that people wanted us to be a part of, but we didn't necessarily want to be a part of. Well, nowadays, we're smarter than we used to be because we didn't like that. So once we decided we didn't like that, we said, well, I'm not sure if we really like communities. We don't really like Facebook communities. And now that we're smarter, we choose to join groups that we want to be a part of. But not only that, Facebook is getting smarter. Facebook is not allowing people to add others to groups that they don't want to be a part of. And that was just recently updated.
I
And
saw
they've
that.
removed people from groups that, never showed up in the group. So communities are not going away. They're only getting better, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to take away from the human connection. I mean, you and I met in human form.
Yes, we did. IRL
And
in real life.
exactly, exactly. And now, we live, on two different coasts, so we can connect on a regular basis in a Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
So that means that, hey, maybe when you come out to California, we'll meet up for coffee, or I head back east, we'll meet up for coffee. So that's never going to change. Facebook groups and communities just give that extension of like, hey, I'm still here. I still want to connect. It's still you're still talking to a human. You're still having a conversation. That it's not. You still have to type it up, or as I do, voice to text a lot.
Right. Big time.
But yeah, Facebook groups are not going away. They're an extension of that human connection that we can meet, in person, which that will never go away. But it just gives us more opportunity to stay connected and develop relationships and build relationships, through a computer or through your
Yeah,
phone.
yeah. And when I think of Facebook groups and I think of the ones I use on a regular basis, like I have my town community group and I love them. They're the ones that let me know that kindergarten registration was happening and that there's no trash this week or whatever it is. I really appreciate that as community. And then I have ones where, I got in for local interests and I kind of, some of those I hate it so negative. Like I think of my local foodie group, and people love to bash the new restaurants, and they're so quick with an opinion, and some of those I've had to leave because it just hasn't brought people up and supported each other. But what I'm also noticing is, my dad, who's a obstetrician gynecologist and lifestyle medicine physician, has a whole group just to support people who are going on a weight loss journey. One of my favorite naturopaths has a group where she'll go live and let you know all the labs that your doctor probably isn't telling you to run. And I'm seeing that if we can put some legitimate people, like if we, like you and my podcast listeners who have a legitimate platform to educate people and provide value, I think that there is a huge place for this community. But now we're getting into like, you're an OR nurse, so you
Right.
see it all, and you know
Right.
what comes through there, and the issues that people are having. And, I'm in groups for, people that have adrenal fatigue and people that need metabolic support and people that want weight loss and people that have this, and that. And, privacy, I'm finding, and our Facebook community users are getting really savvy. I've seen a lot of people that say, I would love to share more, but your group is public, or I'm a little concerned and I don't want to just be added to the group. So privacy is huge. And on the flip side, now I've built 2 communities to over 15,000 people. And some of my friends have been on some of those groups. I do pop-up event groups. I have, other groups where I'm there consistently. And, this is a little scary. People say to me, and we had this conversation, so I'm excited for you to weigh in. Like, how does this go with being HIPAA compliant? And how can you create a safe space where both the, provider or the community manager, whether, they're in health or fitness or whatever their, niche is, and also, the people that are showing up to that community, how can you create a space where everyone knows that their privacy is protected?
Right. Well, number one, don't ever have an open group.
Okay.
Open groups are, I don't honestly know why they have open groups. There are
Like
Facebook
the
groups.
yard sale groups, like, is that an open group?
No, most yard sale groups, you have to request to join. You
Oh,
don't
okay.
necessarily have to answer questions, because a lot of those groups were created before the options
Oh,
to
true.
answer questions, which I will actually discuss because
Mm.
I find that very valuable and important. Um, so open groups are different, and I don't actually even talk about open groups because they're not safe. I mean, it's just like you posting on Twitter, right? Twitter is open to the
Okay.
world. So I consider open groups that. So healthcare providers or fitness, those type of communities wouldn't really develop in an open group, in an open setting. Nobody would want to speak up if they knew it was open. So a closed group or a secret group, and I'm not even really a big fan of secret groups, because if you're sharing that, you can't share a secret group. It's like this invisible link. But closed groups are safe in that you have to approve someone to enter that group. Now, you say that's one level of, privacy or security, but keep in mind, you're not having the conversation between you and your healthcare provider like you would, in an office, right? It's an office setting, your door is closed, it's just me and you. It's different. So people obviously need to know that, but they're not going to be inclined to talk about those deep, dark secrets unless they really want to, and they know what they're getting into because they are on social media. But by having a closed group with questions, you're asking people to join you. You're not actually putting them in the group. So they have the choice to say, hey, is this going to affect my relationship with, the people in my community, or my relationship with my provider because I feel awkward and maybe I'm not going to tell all of the truth, or they're entering that group knowing that there's this layer of somewhat openness. You're in a community, but number one, you're being invited. Okay, so that's one level of privacy. And then your questions are very targeted. You want to make sure that these people should be in your group, right? So you're actually protecting the rest of your community by asking the right questions to make sure that the members of your group should be there. And I find that those questions are underutilized. I think that most people use those questions as just kind of, is this person a human being? When in actuality, you have 3 questions to ask good information so that you can highly target or have a highly targeted group so that you know exactly who's in there and what their concerns are. And you can protect that by knowing, either your community manager, keeping track of the issues that people are having before they even enter the group, right? So they can address those issues. If a common topic is, one of my concerns is that this is going to be out there in the open, then the owner of the group can discuss at one point, how we're going to build this community together, and what's expected and what's not expected. And that information can be, handed out to those community members who have those concerns, because it's a great mind reading tool,
Ooh.
So you're layering these levels of privacy, but granted, it's still a community. It's still on social media. Anybody can take a screenshot, but people know what they're getting into. They're not being forced to be a part of the group. And then, putting a disclaimer in your pinned post in the top of your group that says, hey, just so you know, this is still social media. So if there is something that you don't feel comfortable sharing, don't share it.
Hashtag duh.
Exactly.
And as a provider, you're not bringing up like, hey, I know I saw you last week and that was,
Exactly.
your blood levels. Like, it's common sense, but I do think we need to mention it.
Exactly. And that provider can bring up that subject often in the group. Hey, this is a supportive group. I have your back, but we're not going to be discussing X, Y, and Z. We're going to be discussing this as a community, as a forum where, you all have something in common, why you're here. And that's what we want to discuss so that we can all kind of figure this out together.
It's funny. Like my dad, day in and day out, talks about, menopause and his annual exams. And you would think that maybe that would be the group he has, but his followers love his recipes. So it's
Mhm.
all really just about him cooking in the kitchen. And, it's very organic. And he's
Right,
posting, him and my mom, the recipes that they love. And it's like totally non medical. But my
right,
dad believes that your health begins, with your
right,
refrigerator and in your kitchen. And, so it's a cool snapshot. So I want people too to just think out of the box, and
right.
people love that because they feel like they follow my dad in such a different way. And that's where I think the opportunity comes in as well, is it creates more of a dialogue. It doesn't feel like you're talking at someone. And I think I really learned this from you in your resources, which I know you have some resources
I do.
for the, our listeners, but that, it's about creating that dialogue, which I think a group does even more than a business page. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's like you're in a group, you see that it's a post in a group, and you all of a sudden want to talk. But for some reason, the group just, it really encourages, more people to communicate and to create a discussion and not just get talked at. Um,
Right.
but that sounds like it takes a lot of time. And we don't have a lot of time, right? I mean, you're busy. You have kids, you're a
Mhm,
nurse, and you run a
mhm,
business, and then you run a few groups, like some
mhm.
heavy duty groups. But you seem as if, Anna, you do this with effort and ease. And so, what are your secrets? Like, give us how this is not, a full
Right.
time job, and I'm not going to drive myself bananas with my group.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. We are all busy. And there are two things that you talked about that I want to, make your listeners feel comfortable with doing something like this, because we are really busy. I'm really busy. If you are providing what your group members want, then it takes very little effort. And here's why: they're busy too. Okay. You don't Way back when we used to say, you need to post in your group 3 to 5 times a day so that people
Oh
would,
God.
you'd ensure that they would see your posts. Well, have flipped the script on this. Okay.
Okay.
We're busy. We enjoy only a handful of groups because we go to those groups ourselves and say, what did we miss? I'm sure your dad's group is the same way. I'm sure that the members of your dad's group say, hey, what did I miss today? What did he cook today? And
Mm.
they, on their own, pop in the group and say, hey, what did I miss? So I literally post one really good conversation starting post a day, and people know what to expect. They go, okay, well, I'm going to pop in there. What was the conversation today? And they chime in, and they're a part of this community because I've listened to their struggles. And it doesn't need to be this back and forth all day long, because yes, we're busy, but so are they. Right? We
Mm.
have to respect them. And this is where I wanted to touch on you talked about the business page versus the community. The business page is really a different beast than the community. The community is about them. It's about the community, right? Your business page is about what you have to offer, who you are, how can I connect with you as a provider, as someone that's going to help me, who is this person? But in the community, it really turns out to be about them and that
Mm.
conversation. So that's where people get it wrong. That's why people have this kind of bad taste in their mouth about communities, because they feel like, oh my gosh, I need to provide all this information for my community all day long because they need this and they need that and they need this. They need to be heard in a group. Like,
Mm.
that's the difference, is they need to be heard. So if you develop a very simple, conversation starter, you're going to not only they're going to feel heard, right? Because it gives them an opportunity to speak up, but they're not going to feel alone. So the community is going to become tighter, and they're going to feel more confident, right? Which allows you to step in and go, okay, everybody's feeling confident because we all feel like we're not alone. And then that's when you show up and you provide this great, value and just the behind the scenes, because they want to know that you're human. And that's actually a really good opportunity for you to become closer to them because they realize you're human and you're one of them, right? We're all human. We all have issues, some of us didn't sleep last night and we want to feel like we're not alone, right?
Right.
And that's what a community does. A business page does something completely different. That's your attraction to the world. A community is really like, how can I bring all of these people together and show that I'm listening and that we're talking about something important and that they don't feel alone. And so every day you just say, hey, what are we going to talk about today? And it's about them. And that's what thrives. If you take a look at the communities that you're a part of that you really enjoy, whenever I ask people, they say they have 3 groups. Like you, I think you actually said something about 3 groups.
Yeah.
Typically we have 3 groups that we jump into every day because we don't want to miss out. And why is that? We look at what the host of the group has said, right? But what do we most look at? We most look at everybody's comments.
Oh my gosh, the comments
are gold.
Are gold.
Right? So isn't that what you do? You go in a group and you're like, what did I miss today? Ooh. And then you go, what did everybody else say? Right. Ooh. And then either you chime in or you are amongst the 90% of Facebook group members and you lurk and you don't chime in, but you check that group every day. And that's where people also feel like, well, my group is not successful because I don't have, I have thousands of people in there, but I don't have thousands of people commenting. Should I remove them? No, don't remove them because they're there and they're watching. And if you take a poll, 90% of your group are lurkers. They want to see what other people, but they also want to feel like they're not alone. So those people that do feel comfortable and step out are leading the way for the rest of the group because they can connect, right? They go, okay, I'm not alone, right? I feel this way for a reason. Okay, now I really want to show up because I want to find out how is it going to help me. But mostly people show up because they want to know that they're not alone. And then if you can provide a group that, every day trying to stir up these conversations. And
give me something tangible. What am I saying though? Am I just saying like, how's your day? Like, did you drink coffee today? Or what am I saying in my group?
Well, you can go, coffee is a very good conversation starter, but it's more than just, hey, did you drink coffee today? You want to know, especially if you're in a health and fitness group or you're in a nutrition group or you want to educate your group on nutrition, right? You want to get an idea of like, do I have coffee drinkers or do I have tea drinkers or do I have mushroom elixir drinkers,
Right.
So bringing up the conversation without saying, hey, did you have your coffee today, right? There's a way to say, and I've got this formula. And this formula, you have this formula, so your audience will have this formula at the end of this because it's really easy to follow, okay? And here it is. And we kind of brushed on that a little bit. So you want to say, what did I have going on in my life today? You as the group owner, you as the other human being that you're connecting to your community. What did I have going on today? Well, I'm drinking coffee because I didn't get any sleep last night, right? And then you think about, so that's number 1, you think about yourself. Number 2, you think about your audience, your community. What do you think that they have going on today, right? It's Saturday, okay? So you have that in mind. So you've got you've got your community, and then you want to create a me too experience, right? Me too. Yes. Oh, yes, that's me. So an example is, hey guys, if you're a healthcare provider, you can appreciate this. Hey guys, I got called in at 11 o'clock last night and I got home at 4 a.m., but I had a commitment this morning that I didn't want to break. So I just made a pot of coffee. Now it's Saturday. What are you drinking? Coffee, tea, mushroom elixir? You give them choices. Don't give them open-ended questions. They won't answer them.
Right.
And then the conversation starts to go, right? And then that's an opportunity for you to chime in. Let's just say someone has a problem with coffee, right? And that gives you the opportunity to chime in. Or if you know someone in the group that has something of value, it's really great to tag that person in the comments and bring them to light and highlight them as being an expert in whatever it is that,
Right.
does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah. That happens all the time in groups where you have like these superstars that almost take over the group in a
Right.
good way, in a really good way. And
In
if
a
you have
good
the
way.
right
So
guidelines,
that
it's
leverages,
great. Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
it
And
happens in
it
my
takes
groups.
time away from you.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
encourage
And
it.
there's nothing better than tagging someone in your group because you've paid attention to something that they're good at, their superpower or whatever. Uh, your group becomes more successful quicker when you can hone in on that skill. And that's where the 3 questions come in. The people that ask, what is your biggest struggle? You get information because people, and I never let people in my group that don't answer the questions. Like, you can't get in there unless you
Ooh.
answer the questions. And that's a hard one for most people. But if we go back to the HIPAA thing, and we want to make sure that the people that want to be in this group want to be in this group,
I
right?
love
If you
that.
don't answer my questions, that means you don't necessarily want to be in my group, and we're both wasting our time.
Mm.
But using those questions in asking what the struggle is, you're collecting that information so that you can provide a conversation about that.
Right, right. What's the name of your group for people who want to get help with building groups?
My group, I changed it because I wanted people to know what that group was about. It's called Facebook Group Success, our community cafe. So my business is our community cafe because it is a community. I like coffee, but most of the time we go and say, hey, let's meet for coffee, right?
Ah,
Let's
perfect.
have a conversation. Let's meet for coffee. So I really focus on the conversation and the connection and the relationships in the group because that's why people show up.
Mm.
So my group is called Facebook Group Success, our community cafe.
Oh, I love this. And I really hope that everyone starts a Facebook group. That's one of the first things that I think. If you're building a brand, you're building a business, create the online community to mirror the in person community. And I've just found that, especially, where I live in the Northeast, times when businesses close for days, like when we have snowstorms or in the winter, it gets tough. Like, you can still be open for business and creating community when you have the social community in place. So build it now is what I tell people. What I hope, Anna, is that we can have you back maybe in a few months when, I have some success and we have some stories where, people took this advice and they said, let me dive in. And now we'll get more into the technical things of running the group. And I'm sure Facebook's going to change because they've been putting a lot of emphasis on their groups lately and boosting them. But I
Right.
have one final question before we let you get to bed. I cannot believe that you joined us after getting called into the hospital. I so appreciate you, but I know,
No,
my
absolutely.
OR workers, you guys bounce back real well. I don't know how you do it. But I always ask everyone this. I mean, if we can think about, 5-10 years from now and we look back and you said, I did it, what does that look like for you? Where is Anna Gray headed?
Okay, that's a great question. I did it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I My mission in life after doing, my own communities for 10 years is really to bring out those introverts, to bring out those, the people across the world and build relationships and connections that they would never have if it weren't for social media and if it weren't for online communities. I was a shy person when I was a kid. I was the biggest introvert, and now I have the most amazing friendships because of online communities. I want to get the word out that they're not scary, and they just expand your life. And so that's my mission. My mission is to make sure that people connect with others. It's valuable. It's amazing. And so I would say I did it.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that because a lot of my providers became, providers because they're so smart. And, like me, I was really good at like locking myself in, my room and reading a textbook and regurgitating all the information. And sometimes, that same person can also be, a little socially awkward. It's not typically the person that, went to Harvard that also was the social butterfly. That's not usually the
Totally.
two things that match up. And so, this is really great. I mean, it's kind of funny that we have to, teach people that deal with the general public, like how to interact in a new way, but interaction is
Mhm.
changing and connection is king. And I think that's the way that commerce is going to move in the future, with influencers, with connections, and that's how you're going to spread the word about your business and get way more loyal followers. And you'll be able to work
Exactly.
such less, because you're going to get this customer share, rather than having a bigger market share. And I think when people understand that, and you kind of put together all these episodes that we're doing together, whether it's, retail or community or public relations, and, some of the legality pieces of it, and you put that branding and you put it all together, now we have this amazing business that can be a vehicle for you to do anything you want, which is so
Yeah.
exciting, and have these big impacts. I'm so grateful that you're doing this, and doing this from a health perspective. And I know you made a cool download for everyone, the health of your
Really?
Facebook group. You're so
Yeah.
sweet. I can't wait to get that in everyone's hands. What's the URL? I mean, I'll put it in the show notes, but it's
Sure, sure. It's ourcommunitycafe.com/health. Super easy.
perfect. Yeah, I'm going to put it in the show notes so everyone has it. Awesome. Anna, go get some sleep. Don't drink the coffee. Just go right to bed. I
I only had a
appreciate
couple
you.
sips.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks for this conversation. Hope to see you in a group sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. I want to hang out with you more. I truly believe your success is related to the people you spend the most time with. That's why I created the free community, the Girlfriends Group of Health Practitioners. It's a safe space for you to connect with other soul practitioners who don't just want to keep the doors of their practice open, but they want to impact the health of their community. Head over to www.sarahtugender.com and hit the tab at the top that says Group. Go in there and introduce yourself today. I'll see you soon.